So what are iridoids? Iridoids are a unique biological phytochemical. Iridoids are different from flavonoids. Iridoids are not even phenol compound. They are unique class of compound. So they deliver unique pharmacological activity. Iridoids only exist in a very limited number of plant family, and it tastes a little bit bitter. And iridoids are easily to dissolve in water. This makes berry juice as a perfect product model. So here are some examples of plant family containing iridoids as a major ingredient. So Morinda citrifolia, which is noni, is in the plant family of rubiaceae. Olive is in the Oleaceae family, and those are really typical plant family containing iridoids. So I just want to give you a little bit idea what iridoid structure look like. So you don't have to remember. So here in the first structure, you see the different color. Red color has a 5 carbon, and the blue color also have 5 carbon. So together, iridoid, the basic iridoid structure has a 10 carbon in its skeleton. So iridoid can be also converted to a cycloiridoid after the chemical bond at position 7 and 8 is broken. So anyway, so I like to have you remember 2 simple basic concepts of iridoid, cycloiridoid and just iridoid. So those are 2 the basic structure. So noni is a really good source of iridoid. So we have done tremendous research on the different part of noni trees, like fruit, leaf, seed, flower, and so here's the result. So iridoids have been identified in all of those different plant parts of the noni tree. Particularly, we can see here, noni fruit contains the highest amount of iridoid among those different parts. So noni fruit is still the #1 source of iridoid. So this slide shows a summary of iridoids so far have been identified in noni fruit. So a total of 15 iridoids have been identified in fruit. So we developed a validated analytical method in the laboratory to quantify and identify iridoid in the raw material of product as well as the product. And this is just an example of HPLC profile of noni fruit. So you can see 2 major peaks labeled as #1 and #2. So those 2 represent the 2 major iridoids in noni fruit, corresponding to the acetyl-aspartic acid and the aspartic acid. We call them DA and AA for short. So here are the stereochemical structure of those 2 major iridoids in noni fruit, DAA and AA. So those stereochemistry actually are the real condition, real structure in reality, in nature. So we are also very curious to see if any other fruit also contain iridoid. So we've done some research on some common fruit. So from here we can see, in addition to noni fruit, Well, of course, noni fruit is exceptional. It's excellent source of iridoid we can see here. And in addition to noni fruit, blueberry contains a small amount of iridoid. And all other fruits, including acai, mangosteen, or orange, apple, they don't contain any iridoid. So some of you may know, recently at Morinda, we got a new state-of-the-art instrument. So it has a really long name. So I really mean it's really long. Okay, I try to say it up. It's an ultra performance liquid chromatography, high resolution time of flight mass spectrometer. Okay, so it's called LC mass for short. So this is really a high-end advanced instrument, very expensive instrument, and this is exclusively used for the determination of bioactive component in Morinda product and raw material, particularly used for iridoid determination. So this instrument actually has two features, one high and one low. One high is high accuracy. It can detect the accurate as 1 parts per million. And the one low is the low detection. It can detect as low as a picogram, so which is really sensitive machine. So it's really nice machine. So with this great machine, we were able to do some really exciting research. So this is just one example I want to share with you for the first time. So we were able to identify a new iridoid in noni fruit. It's called Sciencetist. This iridoid has not been found anywhere in the world. So by our Morinda laboratory. That's exciting, huh? So another exciting, here is our new product. So we all know this new product contains higher amount of iridoid. And those iridoid come from the different sources. And this is great thing for our health, for the benefit. However, this will create a big challenge for technical issue because there's too many different iridoids. So we need to quantify those iridoids. So that's a big challenge for our laboratory. So with this new machine, we are able to develop a method, analytical method, to identify and quantify the major iridoid in this exciting product. In the upper diagram, you will see little spots. There's so many little spots. Each spot represents a phytochemical. So actually, there's hundreds of phytochemicals in this new product. And among those phytochemical, hundreds of phytochemical. So if you look at the lower diagram, you see a couple spots. Those spots represent the iridoid. So we are able to screen out of those iridoids from the hundreds of phytochemicals and then to quantify them. So that's the great thing. So on this lower diagram, you see each spot has color. The same color of the spot represents those iridoids from the same source. So remember, we have different sources of iridoid in the new product. So this is just a typical example of how LC mass spectra look like. So you don't have to know this, but please do remember some major iridoids as listed in this slide. So our iridoid research has been published in a peer-reviewed scientific journal, Phytochemical Analysis. So I'm glad to share with you the information. The journal picked up our paper as open access, which means you can go to the journal website to download this paper for free. So here's you can see the journal website web page on the bottom of this slide. So I understand today I probably give you too much information, too much technical information. You don't have to remember all of this, but I want you to remember two things. I think you can do it, right? So first thing, what are iridoids? Iridoids are bioactive phytochemical. Iridoids deliver health benefit to your body. And secondly, at Morinda, we use state-of-the-art LC-mass instrument to identify and quantify iridoid content, and then to ensure iridoid concentration as labeled in every single product. That concludes my talk, and thank you so much for your attention. Let's welcome Brad West, and he will give you a more exciting research on the iridoids.
We have a big group here tonight, international group. So, ni hao, konnichiwa. Konnichiwa. Wow, a lot of konnichiwa. Hello. Hello. Привет, some of you. Привет. The rest of you, what's up? Okay. Okay, thanks. It's good to be missed, but better to be seen, right? So, okay. I'm this guy, Brett West, and so I'm going to share with you some information about the major iridoids in two of the products, and afterwards Paulu will speak about some new iridoids. But Jar K showed you a list of a large number of iridoids in noni and in olive and the products that are in original and in extra, but I'm going to focus on these three here. And as you see here, the major iridoids in original. Now I want to point out, emphasize again, that scandoside that you see at the bottom of that list of three for original, Shixing had mentioned this, but this is a new discovery. So this was not known to exist in noni before, and so actually Shixing's the one who found it. So this is exciting for us from a research standpoint, from scientists, that he was able to make these new discoveries, and we keep doing them. And so we're grateful to the company that allows us to do this, and we're grateful to the IPCs who work so hard to make it possible for us to be able to do this kind of research. So I clap for you and applaud for you doing such a good job. So good, thank you. Okay, in the original, the major iridoids, meaning those that occur in the highest concentration, are aspartic acid and diacetyl aspartic acid and scandoside. Now that first one on top, we call it AA for short, because it takes too long to say it. And just like the second one under it, we call it DAA. It's just easier to say that than it is the other ones. So some of the published biological activities of these iridoids are, as you see here, anti-inflammation, anti-arthritis activity, helping control blood glucose. They have cancer preventive activity and DNA protective activity. Those two are related. Antibiotic type activity, antioxidant, inhibition of LDL, cholesterol oxidation, and then effects on some skin conditions as well. And these are just some of the activities. And as research goes on and on, you find more activities here. And we can answer questions afterwards.
LDL is low density lipoprotein.
Yes, that is. Okay. So these are some of the biological activities. Now I want to point out one thing that's interesting is that the anti-inflammatory and anti-arthritic activity is notable for noni. When I began working for Morinda in 1997, one of the first things that Joe Kay and I had done was start looking in the research that had been published by ethnobotanists and find out what noni was known for doing or claimed for doing by people throughout the world prior to its development and marketing globally. And we found that in different parts of the world, this anti-inflammation and anti-pain type activity was a very common and the most frequently cited benefit, whether that was in Southeast Asia or in the Pacific or in the Caribbean or wherever. And, so very significant activity there, and it's been demonstrated in research. On the cancer preventive and DNA protective activity, I'm going to share with you an example. And this is based on some research that we did in our laboratory. Hopefully some of you had a chance to go on tour already and see the laboratory, but we had done some research there, and research that we published actually last year. Now to explain, there's a chemical here that you see on the left-hand side. The short form of this chemical is 4-NQO. The thing about this chemical is that when you study DNA damage, or you're trying to test something to see if it has any cancer-causing potential, you use this as one of the chemicals that you compare it to. So 4-NQO, 100% of the time will damage DNA. So we did some tests in cells where we exposed these cells to a certain amount of this 4-NQO. Then we measured the amount of DNA damage that had occurred. Then we repeated the same test, exposing cells again to the same amount of 4-NQO, but in different experiments, excuse me, we added DAA or AA, these iridoids from noni, as well, to see what effect they would have on the DNA damage, the amount that occurred in these cells. What we saw was that all the DNA damaging activity of 4-NQO was abolished, meaning it had a protective effect against this chemical, against causing DNA damage. So, thank you for clapping. You didn't really have to clap. I'm sure many of you have seen this before. But this is graphically represents that. So you'll see on the far left, it says blank. That means those are cells, that's the amount of DNA damage that occurred in cells that were exposed to no 4-NQO. There was nothing done with these cells. That's just the natural background level. And then the big red bar is the amount of DNA damage that occurred when we exposed them to this 4-NQO, this carcinogen, this chemical. And this, you'll see the number 6 there. That's actually 600% is what that should be, or a 6-fold increase. So a very large amount of DNA damage that occurred like we expected. Then the other two to the right, where you see 4-NQO with DAA and 4-NQO with AA. When we added those two iridoids to this test system, all of that damage that occurred disappeared. So it had this protective effect. Wow. Now, why do I bring this up, and why do I want to mention this one? Well, it's because of a study that was done, a human clinical trial, with Original in heavy cigarette smokers. This study was done by Dr. Mian-Ying Wang at the University of Illinois College of Medicine. It involved 283 heavy cigarette smokers. These are people that smoke 19 or more cigarettes per day, or one package of cigarettes per day. And it is well known and documented that the cigarette smoke can damage DNA, and that's why it has a cancer risk. We measured the DNA damage in these people before drinking Original. We had them drink Original for 1 month while they continued to smoke. And then we measured the amount of DNA damage that occurred afterwards. And we saw that there was a 44.9% decrease in the DNA damage of these people while drinking Original. So we showed this effect in humans, human clinical trial, and we're able to demonstrate this effect is associated with the iridoids in the Original. Now, in this study, we had a placebo. The placebo included other healthy fruit juices that did not have iridoids. Okay? So there was something, we knew there was something unique and special about noni, and now we know why. We see this effect here, the protective effect of the iridoids in noni. Okay, now I'm going to just show an example of another bioactivity, the antimicrobial activity of DAA, AA, and scandoside. In this study, we isolated the iridoids from noni again, made an extract that we made for this test that concentrated these iridoids, and then we were able to test them against pathogenic microorganisms. These are germs, basically, that cause either food poisoning or some kind of other disease, okay? And we wanted to see what effect these iridoids had on the growth of these. So what you see here is the effect of the iridoids against E. coli. Now, you'll see the graph goes down like this, okay? So as you move this direction, as you see it on the screen, okay, this way, that's increasing concentration or increasing amount of iridoids. And on the y-axis, that represents growth. So you'll see that as the iridoid content increased, the growth of these organisms declined and decreased until they were no longer growing anymore. So basically it's preventing their growth and killing them off, okay? That's E. coli. E. coli is something you do not want in your food, okay? That'll make you sick. Okay, so it has activity against these pathogenic bacteria. Candida albicans. This is a yeast. It causes yeast infections, a lot of problems for a lot of people. This yeast was particularly susceptible or very sensitive to the effect of iridoids. And we saw that the iridoids had a strong activity in inhibiting the growth of this organism here. Also staph aureus. You've heard of staph infections, things like this. Okay, this organism also responded to the iridoids, meaning the iridoids prevented its growth, limited its growth, and caused its destruction. So we are able to see these kinds of activities from the iridoids in the noni. Now, there's several iridoids in the olive. Now, these iridoids are not found in the common olives you buy at the store. Okay, they've been removed. They're not there in those olives you're going to buy. They have to be handled the right way off the tree and handled in a way that allows them to be preserved in the plant. And that form is what shows up in our bioactive, in our extra. Okay, and so you can't get them from eating pizza. Okay. Sorry if you like pizza, but you still have to drink the products, okay? But these are the major ones, okay? And there's a number of health benefits. The one at the top, controlling high blood pressure, that's a very interesting effect, and that's what a lot of the extract from olive is known for. And oleuropein, which is the secoiridoid, the major one in olive, is known for. Okay, but there's something else I'm going to share with you here. But before I do that, I want to explain something about oleuropein. It is a secoiridoid. It's a little different than the iridoids that are found in noni. And I need to explain, watch my time here, I need to explain something about iridoids. I'm going to use a sports comparison, or a sports analogy. Okay? So the iridoids have some common properties. JRK showed you that. There's some common biological activities they have. So these would be like athletes. The common properties that athletes have are they're strong and fast, right? They're quick. They're agile. They're in better shape than me, okay? They're usually skinnier than me, okay? So the athletes have some common properties. But if you take athletes, and let's use for example a football team or a soccer team, okay? Football for everybody around the world, soccer for us Americans, okay? So we use this example of a football team, okay? You have some athletes that are very good at being a goalie. They keep the ball from coming in, right? They dive, they jump, they block. Then you have some athletes that are better in the middle of the field that are good at, they're called midfielders. They kick the ball to somebody called a striker who then tries to score a goal. And they're all good at different positions. They all have some common attributes, being very athletic, but they have better skills. And when you bring them all together, you have a good team, a better team. Imagine if you had just a team of goalies only. That wouldn't do too good. Or just strikers only, right? That's not good. So in these products, we bring in iridoids with different properties and different abilities all together into these one products, so we create synergy to make better products. Okay? So oleuropein is an interesting one that we bring in. Now, let's see if I can get my mouse to show up here. There we go. Okay, see this arrow here? So this part of the iridoid right here that I'm circling here, when you eat this iridoid, this is broken off as part of the digestion and metabolism and other processes. This is called hydroxytyrosol, that section I circled. So I want you to understand that when I show you the next slide, okay? It's part of the iridoids, part of what you ingest when you eat them. The health effects of oleuropein and that part of oleuropein are well known. In fact, there is a process in Europe where the government agency, the European Union agency called the European Food Safety Authority, reviews research, and if there is a large amount of evidence, they will give an opinion that is the basis of a health claim that is allowed to be made. And last year, the European Food Safety Authority issued an opinion on the iridoids in olive, okay? The hydroxytyrosol and the oleuropein. And what they said is that there was enough evidence in human clinical trials that they were comfortable in saying that eating this iridoid will help protect your LDL, low density lipoprotein, from oxidation, okay? Now you may think, well, why do we care? Well, LDL cholesterol is commonly caused. You know that this high levels is not good for your health. Why is that? LDLs by themselves, LDL levels by themselves are one thing. It's like a gun, okay? The gun by itself is not dangerous. You put a bullet in the gun, it is now dangerous, okay? LDL cholesterol, when it becomes oxidized, is now dangerous. And when it's oxidized, it binds to the walls of the artery and forms a plaque. When that thing gets big enough, it blocks the artery. That causes heart attacks, stroke. It becomes dangerous. So you can see where having things in your diet that you eat that help prevent the oxidation of LDL is a good thing. This is a heart health benefit. So the evidence was so strong for this iridoid that there's an approved health claim that was just issued this past year. So evidence of these antioxidant, these heart health benefits of these iridoids. So with that, I'm now going to introduce Afa Palu, one of our great researchers, who will speak about the biological activities of the iridoids in the new product. So come on up, Afa.
My fellow bioactivists, howdy. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Yolanda! Yolanda! Can it be louder than that? Yolanda! Yolanda! Wow, we are really, really bioactive now. I I feel very privileged to be here with you today. In fact, it's a great honor to be with you. And in the next few minutes, I'd like to share with you something that is very important for the upcoming launch of the new product tomorrow. In fact, somebody asked me a few hours ago, hey, the new product, is the new product safe? You know, it is a standard of Morinda that we do not put anything that is not safe. However, I've been using the product for the last 7 months. I'm still here. So, there are 3 things basically that I hope that I'll be able to convey to you that might be helpful for all of us. Number 1, what are the major iridoids in the new upcoming products that is going to be launched tomorrow? Second, what are their activities and concomitantly the health benefits associated with those activities? This has been a large project that we have encountered ourselves in the last couple of years with iridoids. It's interesting from the point of noni because for a long time, a lot of people always said that, I remember a lot of doctors that said, noni is a snake oil. Now, you have to understand my background from the islands. There are no snake in Tonga. And my reaction was, are there oil in snakes? See, the only thing we know about oil is coconut oil. So that's all we know. However, I think even though iridoids studies have started back in the 1950s, and which included Dr. Oscar Lehmann, that he found an iridoid in noni, and he concluded that perhaps there are other compounds like this in noni. Interesting, one of his colleagues, you know him by name, Dr. Ralph Heineke. He's a good friend of mine. He explained the importance of noni and compound in it. I believe that we have solved the problem. The iridoids. In fact, in the islands, everybody knows that noni works for a lot of things, but nobody knows exactly how noni works. The advent of Morinda Incorporated bring all the mysteries of noni to life. And now we know why noni works, because of iridoids. Now, with the change of name, it brings us new ability to bring bioactives from other sources, which I would like to share with you. Now, there are 5 major iridoids in this new source or sources will be added in this new product. Namely, leucanin, leucanic acid, sphericide, conoside, and moronicide. Now, I want you to memorize these 5 new iridoids. I hear some people laughing. They say, are you nuts? Well, I will show you a little trick at the end of the PowerPoint of my presentation that will help you to remember. You will be amazed. After this workshop, you can tell them, hey, I know the 5 iridoids. So, if I may, let's start with sphericide. And as I explain some of these health benefits and bioactivity of these iridoids by themselves, you see there may be a lot of them that might be synergistic or they overlap each other. So it has been known and has been studied that sphericide iridoid by itself prevents allergies, has anti-inflammation, suppress the superoxide generations, help regenerate nerves, has antibacterial, antifungal. Additionally, it has anti-diabetic effects. In fact, one of the best benefits of this iridoid alone, it improves blood flow, which help with the wound healing, among other things associated with aging. It also helps to reduce the radicals or the free radicals in our body. And there are 7 types of them, which is why it's so important that you actually have a human clinical trials to demonstrate the antioxidant activity of any product or any sources. Because the so-called ORAC score does not tell you the whole story. And then have been shown to really increase endurance in swimming. And it has some analgesic effects. So the second major iridoid in the new products, volcanic acid. Again, anti-inflammation. It also was shown very interestingly to inhibit the entry of hepatitis C virus. That's something very interesting that was shown. It has antimicrobial, antifungal, but something that associated with diabetes is the enzyme aldose reductase. Aldose reductase enzymes in diabetic conditions basically operate in a very high or high expression. When it operates on that higher expression, it turns the blood glucose into sorbitol or alcohol sugar, basically, which contribute to eye and the kidney problem that are associated with diabetes if you do not manage the blood sugar level. It also shows to inhibit the superoxide regenerations. Now, volcanic, the third major iridoids in the new products. It's shown to improve learning and memory impairment, enhance cognition. It has a hepatoprotective effect, but it was also shown in that protective effect to reduce hepatic and renal glucolipotoxicity, which is something interesting. And again, it has the anti-inflammation and anti-hemo shock. Now, the interesting thing about these individual iridoids, these are their own bioactivities, but you also see the anti-inflammation seems to be common to each one of them. Locanin, continuing, it lowers elevated triglyceride, significantly lowers oxidative stress. Now, oxidative stress can be caused by chemicals, not to count some other physical stress that we might come across. But regardless of what sources of oxidative stress, they almost always contribute to other diseases if you do not lower them or manage them. It was shown to lower ages. Now I'm just checking to see if you're watching. There are those who say, you mean that if I'm 47 years old, I can be 20 again? No, I'm afraid not. But your body inside might be 20. AGEs not stand for how old we are, but it stands for Advanced Glycation End Products. Interesting, AGEs are well known to contribute to almost a lot of all of our diseases. They change not only the morphology of the cells itself, but also make your blood vessels a lot more static, that it does not facilitate the increasing blood pressure or the dropping of blood pressure at the same time. So when somebody cut you off, for those of you who have experienced that today, your blood pressure goes up. After a minute, it should go down. So if you have a lot of AGEs, your blood vessels do not have the ability to accommodate such activity, which contributes to a lot of other diseases. It also been shown to increase antioxidant levels. Interestingly, is very well established that the older we get, the antioxidant levels are lower. Interestingly, at the same time, diabetes condition, the antioxidant levels are lower. And this iridoids is able to increase that to the normal level. And last but not the least, it decreased one of the components for HEEs. Now, cornoside. Again, here is something interesting. The anti-inflammation, you see, is right across on almost all of these major bioactive iridoids. Also reduce the beta cell death, which is associated with a lot of type 1 and type 2 diabetes. It helps protect the liver. It reduces COX-2 expression. Now, interestingly, pain and inflammation always contribute to a higher expression of COX-2. But COX-2 always are elevated in almost all of the cancers. So if you can reduce that, it might alleviate a lot of these problems associated with COX-2 higher expression. It was also shown, which is very important, that it has the ability, cornoside, to restore one of the enzymes that are involved in detoxification of the body. It also has antioxidant effects, heart protection, but at the same time improve mitochondrial metabolism. And we know that mitochondria, that's where a lot of our food go through combustion or burn, and then we have the energy that we need. Boronicide, one of the major iridoids in the new product. It was shown to protect cells from the effects of HEEs. Lower triglyceride levels, lower oxidative stress, restore the lipid homeostasis, significantly reduce TBARs, which are associated with the antioxidant effect. And at the same time, reduce significantly the amount of reactive oxygen species. Reactive oxygen species or reactive nitrogen species, all of those are very dangerous for our health, and it needs to be reduced. That's why it's important to have strong antioxidant enzymes, which has been shown to be associated with the iridoid moronicide. But also it has the ability to modulate. So if in diabetes condition it was shown that when the antioxidant levels are lower, moronicide is able to bring it to the level of the normal. So now, here is the challenge. The 5 major iridoids for the new products tomorrow. Locanin, locanic acid, sphericide, moronicide, and the last but not the least, cornoside. That should be easy to remember. Here's the trick though. If you remember that you come to a leadership meeting in Salt Lake City, so that'll be LMSLC. So L for locanin, M for moronicide, S for sphericide, L for locanic acid, and the last but not the least, cornoside. So just remember, leadership meeting in Salt Lake City. You will remember the 5 major bioactive ingredients. So, quite frankly, in conclusion, the new product introducing tomorrow is one of the best choices you can ever make. Believe me, I've been taking it for 7 months. It's a great product. It is the best. Thank you for your time.
I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to be here with us today in this workshop. Hopefully you've learned a little bit more information on iridoids and just the benefits that they're going to have in your life going on from here. And I'd also just like to thank you for taking the time to come from all over the world to be with us here at this International Leadership Conference as well. Thank you very much.